If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
Are the Bills broken beyond repair to some degree at this point? I mean, especially given the small market status, especially given the CBA and all the issues and where they are without really a legitimate quarterback, that all these quarterbacks come off the board. Here's a team that's in peril at the quarterback position, or most people feel like they are, and yet they took a defensive tackle.
Took a corner in the second round. The quarterbacks that were available to them when they could do it weren't going to make a difference anyway. I would look at free agency, but who's going to go to Buffalo? Why would Carson Palmer? Why would Mark?
That is a hell of a challenge, right? When people
Buffalo?
Don't want to come. We got that with the baseball team here.
Right.
When the best players just
so they're going to have to build it.
Come.
They're going to have to build it, and they're starting a good, solid base. Marcel Darius is a great player. Aaron Williams is a good, solid corner. So they're going about it the right way. Will they be a lot better this year? Probably not. And at what point, does that begin to catch up with you? They haven't been in the playoffs this century.
On the topic of Darius, we talk, in the Michael Lewis book, The Evolution of Football, he's just specifically talking about that blindside tackle position. It feels like in the evolution of football now, defensive tackle has sort of become that third position. Maybe it's quarterback, offensive tackle, and now defensive tackle, as more and more teams that are really good are getting one of these Haloti Ngata type run stuffers. The Lions took a second one this year.
Right. There's not a lot of those come along. It
was a huge part of our success, right? Super Bowl year.
Oh, absolutely. We got Goose and Sam Adams in the middle. The really good teams that can do that, and then that frees you up to do things on the outside. I love Detroit's pick. Jim Schwartz and Martin Mayhew. Let's remember how bad the Detroit Lions used to be.
As bad as we think Carolina is now, they were
as
worse.
bad as we think Buffalo is right now. And they have steadily slow. It's been painful, but they're going to be and are a good football team. I really like what Detroit's doing. But the ability to bring pressure up the middle. It's always about pressure off the edge, and people manufacture with the Von Millers of the world and the edge rushers and bringing the safety in the corners. But you can bring pressure in the inside, and you have to keep your protections more inwardly focused because quarterbacks hate that inside pressure. This is a good pick. So that's a good, solid combination for them inside with Darius.
The inside pressure comes so much quicker than the outside pressure, right? If you're a
quarterback. And it's up right in the quarterback's face. It's hard to step up and climb the pocket when that pressure comes right in the middle of it. And, so that in the evolution of the game, that is, if you can get one, like Farley in Detroit now, like Darius in Buffalo, it's a big deal.
At the bottom of the first round, Mark Ingram ended up going to the New Orleans Saints. He was
Great
a guy
pick.
that looks like an incredible talent, just looks like a special type of player. We've seen so much of him, obviously, winning the Heisman, winning a national championship, coming back for another year. Is this just a statement of we don't value running backs no matter how good you are, or was this about Mark Ingram specifically?
No, Mark Ingram was worth a top 15 pick in my book. But New Orleans is another team. The rich got richer. To have Ingram now get them back into a running mode, which was the big difference between last year and their Super Bowl year. Cameron Jordan helping that defense because Greg Williams did it with smoke and mirrors. They just weren't as good at defense. They helped themselves as much as, and again, that's where I'm saying the latter part of the first round, the rich got richer. Indianapolis, New York got better. Tampa Bay, if they took a risk now, Claiborne and Daquan Bowers. But if those guys can overcome their injuries and indeed are sound, it's amazing. You're talking about Gerald McCoy on the inside with Brian Price, top 2 draft picks last year. They got these guys on the edge, Claiborne and Daquan Bowers, who are both really top 10 talents.
Yeah, Bowers, to see him drop that way.
It was sad. Yeah, this is a good young man. But the injuries are real. And I don't know if he'll see the second contract.
Yeah, when they give you a medical and tell you he won't see a second contract.
But even if he's just nickel and Claiborne's fine. That Tampa Bay got better. So like I said, the good teams got better.
What'd you think of Cam Hayward and him dropping there? I'm only asking that on behalf of Drew, right? Drew has a love affair going with Cam Hayward. Loves Ironhead's kid, and obviously we don't love him anymore because he's wearing a Steeler helmet.
Well, and he's now Ohio State guy, so obviously where my daughter goes. I think he went where he belonged. I think he was a little higher on the board than probably should have been. A little inconsistent. Solid player. Not spectacular, but solid. And typical of Pittsburgh pick. Good, solid player.
Who is your favorite player after, let's say, the first round? Second, third, fourth round. who was a guy you were tracking and said, that guy's going to be a Pro Bowl player, a hell of a football player, somebody down the line that you had to you put a red star on somebody, as Phil Savage would say. Who's your star guy in the second or third round?
There were some intriguing guys. Brooks Reed out of Arizona. His ability to rush on the outside was an intriguing guy that was going to be a pretty good value. Oh boy, I'm looking at my list here. The running back value you were going to get, I thought all the running backs in the second round, whether it be Ryan Williams, Mikel LaShore, there's some interesting guy. Daniel Thomas reminds me of Matt Forte, so a good pickup there. There's just good, solid value across the board there. If there one, Bruce Carter out of North Carolina. I didn't like the UCLA guys, Akeem Ayers and Raheem Moore. Jabal Shepard from Pittsburgh, defensive end, Cleveland. I think Cleveland helped himself. Not huge. I mean, it's not like they're going to win the division this year, but they're building a good, solid foundation there. I liked what Cleveland did.
I guess that's the good news, bad news thing. It's something we talked about this morning, in that it appears as though Cleveland's not going to be that much better this year. But boy, Mike Holmgren seems to be doing the right things to build for the future. He gets some good players this year. Maybe still needs a quarterback. Maybe. We'll see with Colt McCoy.
But also stockpiling draft picks as well.
Correct. I mean, it appears they're on the cusp of turning things around.
Yes, they're going to be. Again, I don't, with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, don't know if it's going to show up this year necessarily. But they've taken another step, and then, the next year. All right, let's see where we're at.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.